Welcome and happy N7 day. This video was something I've wanted to make since I finished Mass Effect Andromeda. That was maybe a year after it came out and some things had already been patched, so my perspective is a bit different, I must admit. It's skewed toward the positive. I love Mass Effect Andromeda, and I fully understand that sometimes glitches can frustrate people to the point that anger bleeds into how someone can feel about the story and characters of a game, but I've always just wanted to make this singular point about Ryder and Shepard inside the overall narrative of Mass Effect. It's simply that outside the fact that they're both Mass Effect protagonists and the main characters of their particular tale, that they shouldn't be compared apples to apples. Ryder and Shepard are actually apples and oranges and should be compared as such. That's what I want to talk about today. Now, I'm not saying by any means you can't compare the characters, because who am I? But saying things like, I clearly prefer Shepard because he's a badass. That is a criticism that is often levied at Ryder, that simply they are not Shepard. Now, I love Shepard, and I agree with the statement that he is a badass, or she is a badass. But that's an opinion and we're all entitled to it. What I'm trying to say is trying to force Ryder to be Shepard when they didn't even start out the same or have the same type of development is quite unfair. And now today, I'll tell you why. Here's my 2 cents. I want to start with Shepard because sequentially they came first and is the most beloved in the fan base. Shepard is a modern day Heracles. On the surface that may seem a bit hyperbolic, but it truly isn't. Mass Effect and Shepard have defined an entire era and genre of gaming. Whether you have played any part of the Mass Effect franchise or not, if you are in gaming, you most likely have heard their name thrown around in any debate, whether it be about cool factor, character, range, etc. Heracles, for the most part, is the hero most people compare other heroes to. In history, he was what most real-life warriors in the Mediterranean compared themselves to. Shepard, like Heracles, was born great from a lineage that paved the way for them to be great. Mass Effect coming from the lines of KOTOR and Hercules coming from actual gods. They are the ultimate power fantasy. Just look at the labors both characters had to endure, the feats, the ability to overcome impossible odds. Heracles killing invulnerable beasts and demolishing tasks in days that would take many people years to complete. Then there's Shepard, ending long-standing blood feuds between races and possibly uniting a galaxy divided by war crimes and mistrust to overthrow the encroaching darkness. Hercules and Shepard are heroes amongst heroes. Shepard is a truly legendary character in an epic tale of love, war, and identity. Shepard within the lore as well as Heracles are transcendent in their talent, but never the best. Shepard, like Heracles, isn't always the best shot, isn't the fastest, the strongest, or even the most cunning, not even the strongest biotic or god, but they both excel when they pursue something. They have a drive and leadership that their enemies envy and their friends desire. They both achieve their goals with a success that strikes fear into even the gods. Heracles and Shepard embody the good and bad of humanity. Heracles, for as great as a hero as he was, had his flaws. His drive sometimes would cause him to be blind to those around him, or the time he was struck with madness and murdered his family. Shepard can be played as a paragon, the apex of excellence, or a renegade, an unconventional rebel. Just the fact that the quote-unquote good choices is called the paragon choice says all you need to know about what Shepard represents. When Shepard is played as a renegade, you can do some truly evil things and are all around fairly grumpy, but can still be seen as a hero. By the time we meet Shepard, they are a commander in the Alliance Navy. That is a high rank, only 2 ranks down from a rear admiral, and depending on which background you pick, you could be a war hero. The sole survivor of a tragedy which will garner you sympathy and awe from people, or a ruthless Marine who demanded respect through fear and sheer audaciousness. That's an epic hero. I hype Shepard and praise Shepard this way because Ryder was never supposed to be this. I don't think that if Ryder's story was to ever be continued, that it would end up like Shepard's. Ryder is a trailblazer, a pathfinder. Their job was to keep people alive, to keep people from killing each other. They are not the well-established soldier that Shepard was. Even in the backgrounds you can pick for Ryder, none of them involve major combat or action or wealth of experience that would qualify them as a vet. Now, this is irrespective of how you roleplay them, obviously. But in one of the most infamous scenes from the early game, after Ryder lays out their plan moving forward, and I believe this is the biggest thing that separates the two characters, at the end of their brief, the members of the newly formed team just leave. If this were Shepard, he would have given that "the bell doesn't dismiss you, I do" vibes, and no one would have left. This is something prevalent in Mass Effect, especially in Mass Effect 1. Shepard is commanding, and any opposition in those meetings, or really anywhere, can be met with an utter stonewall because that is the power Shepard already has. Ryder is trying to earn that because MEA was a fresh new start, which is the main point of Mass Effect Andromeda. Second chances in a new place, in a new way. You're not supposed to compare Ryder and Shepard as grizzled, full fleshed out characters because Ryder's just starting their journey. Ryder is your quintessential everyman, while Shepard, as stated, is the epic hero. The everyman character archetype is representative of the audience. This archetype has to do with working hard and living a simple life. Their primary motivations are to have a sense of belonging and enjoyment. They crave creating and forging connections with people. In literature, the everyman character archetype is often put in extraordinary circumstances and situations. In those situations, they just try to survive them the best they can. Also, the everyman generally isn't morally obligated to their task. There are more characteristics that the everyman has, but I think the four I just listed are the major ones that differentiate who Ryder is from Shepard. Now, Shepard does create and forge connections, but not because he wants to, but because it's his duty, it's necessary. He is often ordered to. Shepard fights the Reapers because, as a Marine, his job goes beyond duty. It becomes a moral obligation, and Shepard acknowledges this. It is acknowledged and emphasized every time Shepard encounters the Reapers, and also emphasized by the choice system itself. Every choice in the original trilogy is graded on a good-bad scale. Several times when encountering the Reapers or Cerberus, a philosophical argument ensues, which forms the basis of the OT's moral issues that made the game so compelling. The moral scale is something that is mostly absent from MEA, not gone completely, but not the focus. Ryder, on the other hand, is just doing their job, but it becomes a personal duty as opposed to a moral one because Ryder is carrying the job and legacy of their father and mother in being the Pathfinder and Sam's host, while for the most part taking care of their sibling. Ryder doesn't stop the Archon in the Ket because it's the morally correct thing to do, but because they're trying to protect their people from extinction, trying to get them resources. Helping the Angara isn't necessarily done out of righteous dignity, but because it furthers the initiative. It gives them a native ally in the cluster. These defining characteristics are all shown in how the dialogue wheel is different. It's no longer about good and bad choices, but about what you say, and as my wife says, how you say it. This distinction is evident. Now, none of this is a dig at Shepard or the OT. Like I said, I love Shepard just as much as any Mass Effect fan, but I also love Ryder, and I appreciate what the character is and what was being done with it. I think if we got a continuation, I think Ryder would have taken a more diplomatic or political role, and the Jardan and Ket would have brought us closer to the OT's original concept of organic versus synthetic. Now, I agree some of the choice options could have had more impact on the game. The first outpost decision is the first thing that comes to mind. Also, the four options could have leaned you the character, more in favor with the admins on the Nexus, but I'm not disputing about the game overall here, because if we did do that, then I would just make an entire video on how Mass Effect Andromeda's combat surpasses the OT's by a light year, or how Mass Effect 1 isn't the best of the four games, but it is the most unique in a good way. But that's all I wanted to say. Happy N7 Day, my fellow Space Marines. I love this fandom. I love y'all. Tell me what you think. Is comparing them fair? Is Ryder overrated or underrated? Please, I want to know what you think. Let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I really would love to hear your feedback. Drop your 2 cents in the piggy bank down below. Let me know. Like and subscribe, please. Thank you. Hit that bell notification. And have a good holiday. Bye.